It's a bittersweet day as I'm selling my daughter's RESP. I call it a real estate savings plan. This is the Truth About Real Estate Investing show for Canadians, and the truth is, investors are selling way more often than buying. That's what I'm seeing, and well, that's what I'm hearing from my own clients, and I'm hearing from other high-level investors and realtors. What I've learned in this real estate winter is that my small residential investment properties, single-family homes that I've renovated to be student rentals or legal basement apartments, are much more liquid than any other piece of real estate that's out there. My investment properties that I've sold, 3 of them so far, while I've optimized them for income and location, they each sold in 7, 14, or 32 days. Those are seller market days in market. Those are numbers indicative of a seller's market. Now compare that to apartment buildings, commercial retail, offices, industrial, multifamily, cottages, condos, whatever. Nothing in today's market has more demand than a single family house in a good and safe neighborhood. So there should be no question why I'm bringing the same investment model with me to the States. Industrial is hot too. I'm hearing from experts that vacancy rates are below 5%, which is incredibly low historically for the industrial market. But again, you can't say the same for any other category of real estate. Talk to any local apartment building owner, for example. Like if you do have cash, you can find a good deal out there because there's not much competition out there. CMHC is not in a hurry to refinance renovated apartment buildings, which has been CMHC has been a linchpin to many apartment building strategies for folks who do like the repositioning, which means to when you tenants turn over, you renovate and raise the rents. That whole strategy, again, it's heavily reliant on CMHC ensuring the mortgage for a refinance. But based on what I'm hearing on the street, is CMHC is focusing more on actually creating supply. So they're supporting developers, which is the actual solution to solving a housing crisis, unless we, kind of slow down the immigration. Anyways, that is the truth about real estate investing for Canadians, and I'll happily put my money where my mouth is. My name is Erwin Cito, host of this little podcast since 2016 that is ranked as high as number 81 on iTunes in the business category. As mentioned, I'm listing my daughter's house that I bought for her back in 2015, just months after she was born. Sorry, that's 2014. I bought that house back in 2014. I converted it into a student rental for college students. Those students were rough on the property, so when legal basements were available as a strategy, I went ahead and renovated the basement legally with permits with the help of Andy Tran. Again, converting that basement into an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment with in-suite laundry, and rented it out to long-term tenants back in 2017. Those tenants were pretty good, and they stayed up until this past April. Sorry, they always paid, and why wouldn't they? Their rents were well over $1,000 below market. I say they as if they're one because grandma lived in the basement. The daughter with her 4 kids lived in the top with her boyfriend. I've since helped them find a new place. I've invested thousands, probably getting close to $10,000 to renovate and stage the property. The listing's now live. I'm holding offers until after Victoria Day. Yeah, I'm dating this episode, which I don't mind because we record these episodes all the time. Please wish me luck. With any luck, by the time you listen to this, the house is sold with a closing date ahead of June 25th, the ridiculously short notice deadline by our anti-landlord federal government. Asking price is $748,888 for luck, and I've priced for action. Again, this is a turnkey 2-family house that I renovated with permits to make that basement apartment legal. I've already done the heavy lifting. There's no, for anyone getting into this today, they're looking at a 6-month vacancy due to the renovation, and that renovation could be around another $150,000 to complete in today's market. That's assuming everything can be done on time, like permits and whatnot, because for those who don't know, the city of Hamilton was hacked by ransom people. They're holding the city hostage and for ransom to get their data back. The city refused. So a whole bunch of stuff is not working at the city, or things have moved to more manual processes, which means slow. Anyways, so this is a turnkey one. So market rent for this property based on my early research is somewhere around 4,100 plus utilities a month. The house would be ideal for house hacking, as in live in one unit, rent out the other to help pay for the mortgage, or for a large family, or for a deep pocket investor who can put down a good amount of cash. So to make this thing cash flow. Location can't be beat. Again, I bought this for the purpose for my daughter for her investment, so it's a good one. It's only an 8-minute walk from a major shopping plaza that features Walmart Supercenter. So very convenient location. On to this week's show. We have an old friend, George L. Masri, returning to the show. He is the host of Well Off Podcast. He is a realtor, but he spends most of his time as a full-time investor. George and I used to work at the same brokerage, the wonderful Rockstar Real Estate Brokerage. So George left, I'm still there. But like many talented investors do, they transition out of service work and into more focus on their own portfolio. When I mean transition out of service, I mean, like, for example, contractors, or drafting people, or realtors, or mortgage people. It's not uncommon for them to transition out of those service jobs into more focus on building their own portfolio. Like I've told many new realtors, investors in my experience make more money over the long term via passive investment, and George will prove me right on today's episode. George is going to tell you that it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows, but he's doing really well. You'll be able to tell based on the quality of his deals. Then thanks to smart investing, quality education he's been through, keeping an eye on the numbers, and of course, execution of those renovation projects. As is the trend, above market returns are often available to those who can take on more complicated projects. Those who solve problems tend to be rewarded, and George shares the problems that he's taking on. He also shares how he uncovers deals, because that's incredibly important. If you don't have a good deal, you're gonna have a lot of trouble making good money. George shares how he finds deals off market, on market, how he finds hidden value that others miss, which generally includes adding apartments in commercial multifamily. So commercial multifamily is multifamily that's over 4 or 6 units, anything over that. And also he does some small development work as well. George shares about his different joint venture structures, as he doesn't have all the money in the world, so he is partnering with other folks to passively invest in his projects. So he's sharing from his experience what he's negotiated, how they're structured, what the different splits are, and how the equity splits are, who gets what. So make sure to have a pen and paper ready. This interview is full of good nuggets. To follow George, you can email him at info@welloff.ca. His phone number is 416-855-4902. His podcast can be found at welloffpodcast.ca. Yeah, please enjoy the show. Hi, George. What's keeping you busy these days?
A kid. We just had one, so our second boy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So
two boys.
Yeah.
You're going to make more money.
Oh my God, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Like diaper costs, all these things, you don't notice it, but your costs go up a lot with the 2 kids. But anyway, so we got a 1 month old right now. He just turned a month old yesterday, and we have a 2.5-year-old.
And you have a couple businesses, a sizable portfolio growing. Yeah,
the portfolio is growing. So I've been focusing on that the last couple of years, just growing, stabilizing things. We've had some, just like everyone else, some cash flow issues on a couple properties, so we've had to address those. My wife is a realtor, so she's taken over all the sales on the real estate side, and over the next, I guess, couple months, she'll be slowing down a bit, taking care of our son. So I'm probably going to have to step in a little bit.
Busy.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Before we're recording, we're talking about how new realtors reach out to me all the time, ask me for some advice, and I always tell them, in my experience, investors make more money. Mm-hmm. like you actually have a story to share around that.
Yeah. So when I was, this was probably around like 2016, 2017, I was working with a seasoned real estate agent and an investor. Mm-hmm. So he was like a mentor to me. And then he would just tell me 30 years ago, when I kind of started in real estate, I was so focused on building my real estate business and just selling, and I was killing it. I was doing so well. But there was this other guy in my office who wasn't doing as well as me on the real estate sales, but he was buying one income property every year. And now, after a couple of years, I noticed like he's really starting to build his wealth and do so well. And that made me realize that I need to start buying real estate. And he started a little bit later in his life, but he's done really well. So that was kind of something that stuck with me. So I kind of did the same thing in 2017. I bought my first property, and then 2018 I bought another one, and just kind of kept slowly building from there.
And I remember you've been on the show before. Yeah. I remember your early properties were more simpler. Were they condos? Was it?
No, the first one was a single family home, kind of used as an illegal duplex in Hamilton, Century home. Yeah. In downtown.
You like the old ones, eh?
I don't like them as much anymore, but that was the first one. And I never bought condos. Always bought freehold.
Got it. Yeah, I just sold my 100-year-old house, and I'm glad. I just got the quote just to patch up the chimneys, $2,700.
Yeah.
I can't believe I still have a chimney in this modern age.
Yeah.
Because it's a boiler. I have a boiler. I don't even know what's using the chimney, but I need to fix it to sell that, to close the sale. So I'm fixing it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, 2,700 is not that bad, but to close off the sale.
I know it's reasonable to do.
Yeah.
But these old house problems, I'm done with it.
But that's the thing. When you've been investing for a while, your criteria changes, what you're looking for changes. So it makes sense. It's natural.
Right. Yeah. And your criteria changed a lot. Like you mentioned, you started with the single family home with the non-conforming basement, and you're doing, like, before we started recording, you're doing some pretty advanced stuff now. Like you mentioned, you have an 11-plex in Brantford, and you're adding 2 units. Let's start there. Where are these 2 units going?
Yeah.
Paint us a picture. What does this 11-plex look like? Is it like a 3-story walk-up? Like, what does it have, an elevator?
It's a 2-story, no elevator.
2-story, yeah.
It actually, to me, it looks like a school, like a school that was built in the 60s or something. Some people say it looks like a prison, but
some schools look like prisons.
So it's all brick, no basement. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why no basement? That's odd.
I don't know. So originally this place was a commercial building. I think it was used as a government office at one point, and then it was used as a hall. Right. So it's gone through multiple transformations, but I'm not sure why there's no basement there. Yeah. But anyway, it's got 5 2-bedroom units, 6 1-bedroom units, and it had a laundry room. So at one point, this laundry room, it's like 300 square feet, maybe.
Oh, it's big.
Yeah, like maybe 250 to 300 square feet. Yeah. It was used as an illegal suite, and then somebody complained because they put a kitchen and a bathroom and everything, and they rented it out.
In the laundry room.
They got rid of the laundry units, but they used the laundry room, right? Yeah. So somebody complained, the city came, shut it down, so they kind of flipped it back to a laundry room.
Right.
But when I purchased it, the owner had plans to build an addition to turn it into a legal unit, right? So that's one of the units. We actually didn't want to do the addition because there's a big hill behind the property, and we'd have to build a retaining wall. There's a flat roof. We'd have to extend it. It was going to be pretty expensive to build that addition. Instead, we requested a minor variance to use the existing space to build a little bachelor unit, and it was actually approved. So we're going to be saving a lot of money by just using the existing layout.
Where are you going to fit the bachelor? You had a 250, 300 square foot laundry room.
Yeah.
Where are these 2? Where are you fitting these 2 units?
So it already. Oh no, it's 1 unit. It's going to be 1 unit, but it already had like a shower and a toilet and a little bathroom in the corner. Yeah. It had a small kitchen already. So what we're doing, we're going to extend the bathroom a little bit to add a vanity because you need it for code. We're going to put in another window, and then we're just going to put like just a sink and a stove, and then the fridge is going to go it's going to work out with the addition of the bathroom. There's going to be a little slot for a fridge to go there as well. So it's going to be a really small space, but I think there's going to be good demand for that type of space. So another option would be to Airbnb it. So we do have some flexibility there.
And Brantford allows for Airbnb? They're friendly on that?
Well, actually, I should say that I haven't looked into that. Yeah. I would think so because somebody had mentioned to me that it is allowed, but I'm not 100% sure, actually.
Yeah, definitely check.
Yeah.
The trend is not your friend for
Yeah, I mean, Airbnb is not a priority. I'd rather rent it long-term because, again, for financing purposes, I'd rather have that stable income.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You give commercial financing on this.
Yeah.
Like apartment building style.
Well, I have a VTB on it. Yeah. So
can you share more about vendor take-back mortgage? When you're buying the property, you negotiated it?
Yeah. So we went to see it initially. The owner wanted 2.2 million, which was a little overpriced for us. But we were able to negotiate and bring the price down to 2 million. And then we got 1.3 million as a first mortgage from the seller. So the seller provides the mortgage to us. It's registered against the property, and that's what a VTB is.
Right.
And we negotiated 4.5% for 2 years, interest only payments. Nice. And then it bumps up to 6% for the remaining 3 years, fully open. So we can refinance it anytime.
These are good terms.
Yeah.
This is way better than the private one, what private
for sure.
rates we're seeing.
For sure. Yeah.
6% open? That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, sorry, let's take a step back. How did you find the property?
I had an assistant reach out to a bunch of real estate agents. So we compiled a list of agents that have listed or sold apartment buildings in specific areas. We had probably 20 to 30 agents on this list. We sent out an email to all of them. A couple of them responded. Nothing that was really all that interesting, but we did have this one person bring us the Brantford opportunity, and we just went from there.
And then did you negotiate the VTB directly with the agent or the owner, the seller?
We negotiated with the agent. We had to, yeah, of course. But the nice thing was that the seller was there for all the appointments. So I got to meet him. We would go to there was a McDonald's close by, so we'd go sit down, have a coffee after. It was a really cool experience. It was my first time buying an apartment building, but it was nothing like buying a house. It was more of, let's build a relationship. They want to learn about me. What's my portfolio like? Am I able to actually close on this building? Yeah. I learn about them. It was friendly throughout the entire process. We just cooperated, worked together. It was cool.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
No, I asked if you're able to communicate directly with the seller because, most agents have zero experience with vendor take-back mortgages.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was actually funny. For a few months, I had a few people ask, "Are you interested in the VTB?"
Yeah.
for my own listings, and we haven't had VTB conversations in regular real estate for over a decade.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Right? Maybe when I first started back in 2010, when things were more of a balanced market.
Yeah.
Or you had something more complicated like mixed use.
Yeah.
Where there was no good financing, all that sort of stuff. But for this, you could get traditional financing.
I could definitely do that. I can get traditional financing, but the terms were so good. We actually got a second mortgage as well because we didn't want to put down $700K. So we got a second at 11%, which topped us up to about roughly 80% loan to value, somewhere in that ballpark.
Wow. And this was a private from your own network or?
From my own network. It was actually through RSP funds. So somebody had a big chunk of money in their RSPs. They were able to loan it to us as a second.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Someone off you met at the podcast or someone?
No, just someone I've known for a long time, an investor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so there's no lender fee, anything like that. It's just
there's no lender
costs
fee
and just straight interest.
Yeah, pretty much. I had to pay for lawyer fees on their end as well, kind of standard, but that's about it.
Fascinating. Why I find this fascinating is because the folks who are in trouble in the news, generally it was quite expensive. Seconds were 12%, and then there's usually a lender fee as well, 1-2%. So it's much more expensive for all parties involved versus you're able to do this all internally, sort of.
Yeah, I was able to avoid a lot of the fees. Yeah, there's no fee on the VTB, right? No lender fee, no nothing. That's what one of the really nice things about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the point I'm trying to get across is this is what pros do, versus still retail investors.
Yeah.
They pay more fees. Their terms usually aren't as good. And that's the point I'm trying to get across is, and then at the same time, the people that are in a lot of financial trouble right now are have the more expensive mortgages. Yeah.
I'm a very cautious person. I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm taking a big risk. So although 11%, to me, that was a little uncomfortable because that's the highest I've ever paid for a mortgage. But when I factored in all the numbers, I ran my numbers, it still cash flowed because I'm getting 4.5% on the first, right? So the numbers still looked good. And I knew I had an exit strategy. Plus, as part of the negotiations, we got 3 vacant units. So we were able to increase the rent quite a bit.
So you mentioned you had exits and everything. And you had 3 vacant units, so it's going to be easier to make the deal work.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you weren't able to get the extra, I'm guessing, did the deal work still for you without the extra units? I'm trying to explain for the listeners what conservative investing looks like.
Yeah.
Right. Like, for example, when I'm looking at deals, I need the deal to work as is, without all the other stuff around it. Like, for example, I'm trying to buy near manufacturing plants, but we know, you can't rely on anything. Nothing's for certain.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I need the deal to work as is without any changes to it.
Yeah.
What was your experience like?
Well, it was in the agreement, so I wasn't going to close if I didn't get the vacant units, but I also had a holdback. So the lawyer actually suggested this. We got, I think it was $10,000 for the units that were not going to be delivered vacant. So we can use that $10,000 to hire paralegal, cover expenses like for the month for missed rent, like that sort of thing. $10,000 per unit, right? So that was kind of part of this kind of complicated deal, or one of the things that complicated the deal a little bit, was that one of the tenants was being evicted, and she's, from my understanding, a professional tenant.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So we have been kind of using the holdback for that one particular unit. But I mean, that's the only sort of complication that we've experienced.
Yeah, you structured this deal quite well.
I had to, because it was my first apartment building, right? And I do have a partner in this as well, and I think a lot of people feel this way when you have other people involved. Like, I feel this way for sure. I would rather lose money than lose money for other people, and that's why I'm just very careful when it comes to underwriting.
This is super interesting, because I literally had a guest on who Ben Bergeron. He shared how the wholesaler, he had vacant possession in the agreement, but the tenant didn't leave before closing. Yeah. So you and I would have done a holdback. He didn't. His wholesaler was like, "Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine." It wasn't fine. Yeah. Be cautious, people.
Yeah.
Talk to your lawyer.
Or if you really want the place, like you got a steal on it, then maybe you just have to factor in how much it's going to cost you to get this tenant out. Like, it's going to take you a year. Yeah. What's the cost of missed rent for that time, hiring a paralegal, all that. Just factor all that into your underwriting.
Yeah, there's risks you have to accept.
Yeah.
Depending on all sorts of things. Like, for example, if this is a bidding war, then you probably you can't be as tough on your negotiation. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And then tell me about what the plan is now for the property. So you have approval to add the 2 new units?
So we got a minor variance approval for the additional 2 units. One of them was for the size of the unit. Actually, no, we just needed the 1 minor variance. And we are working with Ken Beekendam to submit plans to put a second story on a storage unit. So that's the 13th unit. On the opposite side of the building, opposite of the laundry room, there's a brick storage room that was attached to the building. And we're topping it up with a second story to build like a little 1-bedroom loft.
Cool. And how big is that?
It's going to be probably around the same, like 300 square feet.
Still small. Yeah. It's a micro unit. Yeah. And then how much is it going to cost you, and what kind of rent are you going to get?
I think preliminary numbers, it was going to cost about $150 roughly to build that 13th unit with everything. And we're projecting that we're going to get about $1,500 in rent for it, roughly.
Wow! So that's a good ratio of rent to what your investment. Plus utilities. Yeah. So again, it's still early, but we are looking to put a separate hydrometer there. It's going to have electric baseboard heaters, and then water. Where we are looking to separate the water meters eventually, but for the time being, we're covering water. And then tell me about the financing. Tell me about the exit.
So we were talking about this a little bit earlier. The plan eventually is to take it to a CMHC loan, right? And they changed their policies late last year, 2023. You can no longer refinance private funds directly into a CMHC loan. So we're going to have to, at least at this time, take it to a conventional loan for 2 years and then refinance it. It has to be an approved lender. So if you go on the CMHC website, they have a list of approved lenders. As long as your mortgage is with one of those, then they'll allow you to refinance the property.
And you and I were, again, discussing before we started recording, this is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
You created supply,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This project is something the government should be supporting. Like, you created supply. You didn't just like remove affordable housing from the market, like most burr investor apartment building people are doing. You literally added almost 20% supply to your building.
Yeah. Well, I think from my understanding, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think CMHC was getting so many applications over the last couple of years that they wanted to slow things down a little bit, and this was their way of doing that, right? And it's working because tons of people that are in the apartment building space have VTBs or private financing or bridge loans or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, CMHC has enabled the financialization of apartment buildings.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think when people get a better understanding of that, I understand why the CMHC has to slow down.
Yeah,
because people, like, the media and politicians are not happy about this.
Yeah.
The removal of affordable housing from apartment buildings in
Sure.
our markets.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm hoping they would prioritize you again, because you're doing you're part of the solution. You're creating housing. I'm hoping that's one of the threshold for you to get ahead of other people.
That would be interesting, actually. Like, if you are adding units, if they would bump you up or kind of waive that no private financing clause that they have. But we'll see. Things might change over the next couple of years.
So wait, private financing, if you self-finance the whole thing, would that still be?
No, if there's no mortgage, if it's free and clear, then you should be okay. But again, so this is one thing but this is one thing that I've heard. Some people are saying that they'll pay off the private just temporarily and then take it to CMHC, but they're starting to crack down on that, right? They're looking up the history to see if there were any loans registered. Yeah.
Who just has like that kind of money lying around, though?
Well, they borrow it like P notes or whatever and pay it off.
Oh my God. Promissory notes to wipe out the mortgage for more expensive.
Either that or they register against another property if they have a bunch of equity in another building or something.
Yeah. Got it. Interesting. Yeah, because that's capital for you. It'll find a way.
Yeah.
Very. So do you have your approval lender in mind for this project?
I'm not even looking at that right now because the VTB, we have good terms right now. So we're flipping a couple of the units. We're adding those 2 additional units.
You're not ready for refi anyways.
Not ready yet. Yeah.
And yeah, because you got into this project before you knew about this policy change.
Well, it was right around the time, almost exactly when we closed, which was we closed in September 2023. And that's when the policy had changed, right around then. Yeah.
Fascinating.
But even if it had changed 6 months prior, I probably still would have done the same thing because we've got good terms, right? So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then your underwriting. So what are you projecting for your after renovation value?
So there's a CMHC calculator that I just found out about where you can kind of see how much you can borrow, the loan amount that you'd be able to borrow or the value of the building. And I punched in just yesterday, actually, all the projected numbers, projected rents and expenses and all that. And I think the loan amount that I saw was about $3 million. It was somewhere between 2.9 and 3 million.
Right.
So we bought it for 2. Once we complete these extra units, turn over a couple more units, then we're going to be at roughly $3 million.
And you're happy with that?
Yeah, that's a big lift.
Right.
It's a 50% increase, right? So.
And you mentioned you have a partner on this as well.
Yeah.
Is that an equity partner? Is this your wife? Who is this?
Well, my wife's my partner on everything, so I don't count her as an equity partner technically, although she is. But we have another partner. So it's an equity partner. I don't really like to over leverage and borrow too much. I know some cases it works, but for me, I'd rather raise equity and be on the safe side.
Right. My point about leverage, borrowing, all those sorts of things is like it's double-edged sword.
Yeah.
your upside could be higher, but also you have your window of success is shrinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And again, there's lots of history. Like anyone who's gone bankrupt is because they couldn't service their debt.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
be
I think
cautious with the use of debt.
there's a time and place for that. Like if you're buying your first property and you don't have that much to lose, you're willing to take more risks, right?
Well, say you have no debt too.
Yeah.
Right. So you live in your parents' house still.
Exactly.
You have no rent or mortgage payments or minimum.
Yeah.
You can take some more risks.
But if you've been working for a couple years to build a stable portfolio and you've worked hard and sacrificed a lot, it doesn't make as much sense for you to take on that extra risk because the reward isn't going to be as great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because literally I've had guests of the show who've had their previous gains wiped out over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like all that blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
To have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But again, like if they survive, and I say it on the show, if you can survive these times, you'll be laughing 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Right. But again, right now it's about survival for some.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you don't like too much debt. And it's interesting because we'll get to your other projects because you have several different, your projects are quite varied.
Yeah.
And then you were sharing before we're recording that your structure of your partnerships is different across deals.
Mm-hmm.
Because here you found a deal, there's quite a bit of heavy lifting for you to do.
Yeah.
Even though you're not like swinging hammers, I know. But yeah, how did you structure the deal on this one with your equity partner?
Yeah. Well, so we actually opened a new corp and we're 50-50 on the equity side. But the amount of capital that we've each invested is a little bit different. Again, because I am doing so much of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And this was the case here, and this was my first apartment building, as I mentioned. Same for the investor that's working with us as well. So we both wanted to kind of experience what it's like to own an apartment building, and we just structured it this way for now. But moving forward, obviously things might change, mm-hmm. right, on other deals. So mm-hmm. yeah.
And this partner this equity partner, they're passive?
They are passive, yeah. Yeah.
And then this is someone you already knew?
This is someone I know, yeah. Known him for a couple years. It's always the case for us. Like, I don't really meet anyone on Instagram and then do a deal with them. Like, I don't think that really happens too often. I think people want to get to know you a little bit. Yeah. I'm sure there's some of that going on. I think some people kind of specialize in that, but for the most part, the people that I know, they build relationships with their partners, right? Mm-hmm. And it takes time to get to know them. They get to know you. Mm-hmm. That's kind of more my style.
Right.
Yeah.
This is someone new from like work or from church or something?
No, it's actually another investor. We're part of like some of the same investment groups. Yeah.
So networking works.
It works for sure. Yeah.
Very cool. Do you want to shout out which group?
Yeah, I can share it. One of the groups that I often attend is Durham REI.
Oh, yeah. I love Quentin's group.
Yeah. Quentin's awesome.
Yeah.
He's actually the reason that I bought this building in the first place. I've consulted with him on the numbers. Like, he talked me out of walking away because I was like, oh my God, this is, bigger numbers than I thought. Everything, the refinance looks this way. What do you think? And he was like, no, the numbers look pretty good. So it's always good to consult with your mentors and even pay a little bit just to get the right advice, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Were you in his training courses? Or you
I did.
Student of his?
Yeah. First of all, I was a coaching client of his. This was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So he got me from single family homes to a 5-plex and a 4-plex and bigger properties at the time. And then I've taken his apartment building investing classes as well.
Got it.
I've taken all of his classes, his JV classes, VTB classes, everything.
Yeah, I'll post the link to his website in the show notes. But yeah, anyone can look up Durham REI, Quentin D'Souza.
Yeah.
He's been on the show, I think, 3 times.
Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not a stranger to anyone. And what I like about Quentin is everything he offers is quite affordable.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, some of these courses that I've taken were like $500, which I've gotten so much value. Like, just look at this one deal alone. Apartment. So I took his apartment building class. I got a VTB. I took his VTB class, and I have a JV partner. I took his JV class. It literally all came together in one deal.
Right.
And just the one deal alone pays for everything I've paid to take these courses.
I love quality education.
Yeah.
I love it more when the price is reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's lots of stuff out there that's really expensive.
Yeah.
And yeah, they don't have much track record, which is nuts. Even worse when some of them they're producing like students who go bankrupt.
Yeah. I've heard of these things. There's a lot of people offering courses. I don't know what's good and what's not. I'm not sure. I don't go out there and explore all sorts of courses, but I just know the ones that I like and I kind of stick to them.
Right. Well, because you're not an active realtor anymore. Like I still talk to clients, and when they tell me like the stuff they're taught, I'm like,
yeah,
just the same conversation I had with you. Like too much debt, your probability of success shrinks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if your interest payments are too much and you can't support it.
Yeah.
What choice do you have?
Yeah. It's a scary place to be in.
Yeah. For many. Super cool. All right. Now, can we move on to your 4 townhouses?
Sure. Yeah.
Tell me about the 4 townhouses.
Yep. They're in Welland. Picked them up in March 2022, right before the rates skyrocketed, before the market dipped roughly 30%.
Are you okay with the price you paid?
Yeah. So $375 per unit. It was off market.
Sounds pretty cheap.
It's cheap. They're older. So they're built in the 1920s. The owner.
Wow, I don't know if I've seen towns that old before.
Yeah, it's older for sure. It's a pretty unique place because there aren't that many townhomes in Welland that are like that. There's condo towns, but these ones are freehold. So yeah, I got a VTB on that as well, actually, and I got 1% interest only for 12 months. My mortgage
rates are going up.
Yeah. My mortgage payment was $226 a month per property. So yeah, I was trying to negotiate a longer term. They refused, but whatever. I thought that's an amazing term. I'll take it. They had 4 tenants in the property, and I was pretty confident that I'd be able to work with a paralegal to provide an incentive to the tenants for them to move on. Unfortunately, 3 of the 4 refused, and we had to figure it out from there, right? So we thought we're going to have to probably duplex these. We're going to file an N13 for renovations.
Right.
Yep. We got, there were some delays and things, and the paralegal that I worked with kind of screwed up a little bit on a few things. But at the end of the day, we did get to our N13 hearing, and they sided with us because we have our permits, we have everything ready to go. Mm-hmm. And we were able to provide an incentive anyway to the tenants, and now we're in the process of actually converting them. So just to kind of put things in perspective, once our 12 months was over, we had to scramble to get financing for these. And it was hard because, we have a couple mortgages. It's not that easy to get mortgages anymore. Rates were going up. We were getting about $1,000 a month on some of these properties in rent, and the mortgage payment was $2,000 a month. So we're in that situation where it's like, man, we're in some trouble if we don't do something about this. So that's the process of converting these is going to increase our rent to about $2,600 a month up and down. So we're going to be in a more comfortable situation.
And your duplexing strategy is different. Like most people duplex into the basement. Mm-hmm. Here you're doing main floor, basement is one unit, and then second floor is another unit.
Yeah.
And can you explain the investment hypothesis to get you to that strategy?
Sure. So if you remember, I mentioned that first property I bought in Hamilton, the single family that was used as an illegal duplex. Yeah. So it had a main floor unit and an upper unit.
Okay.
So it made me think, because I had brought Ken Beekendam at the time through, and he told me, this is actually, you can do this, but you have to make some adjustments to make it a legal 2-unit. So I thought I can probably do the same thing with these Welland townhomes.
Right. Oh, so experience helped.
Yeah.
And guidance, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Expert advice, guidance, yeah.
If I were to do it in the basement, an extra unit, you'd have to jackhammer the concrete, run all your new pipes, frame, drywall, all this stuff, right? So it was going to be more costly than just putting a hallway on the main floor, separating doors and doing it that way. So ended up being cheaper to
I like cheaper.
Plus, with the way we've set it up, if we're allowed to put a third unit in the future, we've got a layout which would allow us to put an extra, like extend the hallway and bring an extra door down to the basement, so you can have 3 units within this one space.
Right.
Yeah. So we just found it made more sense for us to do that.
You mentioned like jackhammering the basement. Is it not enough ceiling height? Is that why?
No, I mean for your drains, like you got to rough in plumbing, right?
Right, because you know plumbing in the basement, so you have to rough in.
It's an unfinished basement, yeah.
Okay. But do you have the ceiling height or no?
We have, from my understanding. So I worked with Andy Tran on this, who was awesome, by the way. Anyone listening, like both Andy Tran and Ken Beekendam are great for these kinds of things. Yeah,
they both went on I don't know how many times.
Yeah. We have, I think, just enough ceiling height. So I think what Andy was saying, like if we put thin vinyl flooring, we should be good. So yeah,
that's thin vinyl flooring. Put down some area rugs.
Yeah,
so the floors are warmer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's it. That's what we would do.
Fantastic. And then what's the budget for the reno?
The renovation itself, we got quoted $50,000 plus HST. Pretty much,
that's
roughly.
Not bad for a duplex conversion.
But we had to work to bring that down. Like I had to scramble and just change everything because, again, like when you work with a designer, they're often, they have someone on their team that's doing these layouts for you, and they're trying to come up with something functional and beautiful and makes the most sense, and you maximize the space. And as an investor, that's not always your priority.
Right.
In this case, my priority was doing this for like as little as possible and having a legal unit.
Right.
So for example, they wanted, because the main floor has a powder room, right? So we needed to put a shower in there. So they wanted to rip out the closet next to the powder room. There was a back door that led to the backyard. They wanted to reposition that. So move it from there, put it in the living room, reframe the deck and do all this stuff, right? And I'm like, there's no way. I'm not spending
for a rich homeowner.
Yeah, like exactly. If this is your home and you want that's fine. Yeah. So what we did was we ripped out the vanity instead. We put a shower where the vanity was, and we put like this really thin floating vanity up against the wall between the shower and the toilet. Right? So we didn't change any of the framing. We just kept it exactly as it was.
Yeah.
And that
which really brings the budget down.
Yeah.
And the time to execute.
Exactly. That's one example. Another one was upstairs, the engineer suggested we rip out one of the walls. We had to
which is always expensive.
yeah. We had to support because it was a load-bearing wall, so we had to support it and
more money.
Yeah, tons of money.
More money time.
Tons of money. So instead, we literally just cut out one of the non-load-bearing walls, and we opened up the space that way instead. Like, how much did we save by doing that?
Like so you created a doorway or a pass-through or just a window?
It's a large opening.
Yeah.
It's probably maybe 8 feet wide, but it's a non-load bearing wall. And it was the wall between, there was a bedroom and like kind of a small den. And we opened it to create a kitchen and living room. Yeah.
It's funny when people just make designs with no budget.
Yeah.
Budget in mind.
Yeah. But again, if you're inexperienced and it's your first time working with a designer, you have no clue. Like you might just be like, oh, okay, this is what you suggest. Let's do it.
Yeah, you're the expert.
Yeah. Yeah. But
also it takes time, obviously, to redesign.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think for anyone listening, you can push back sometimes and try to find more creative ways to lower your budget. Because I don't want to I could have easily spent $150,000 on each of these. So a total of $600,000 across. Mm-hmm. Instead, we're at, let's say 70,000 with carrying costs per unit. It's a significant amount less. Yeah. It's like half the budget.
Yeah. And just to let listeners know, what you're doing is not that common. Versus when we do basement suites, it's very cookie cutter. Mm-hmm. This is how you fit in 2 bedrooms, and that's how you're going to maximize your rent.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like here's 3 layouts that we do all the time. Pick one.
Yeah.
Versus yours was very custom job.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. And you have to work with everyone. The contractor has to be on board. Like everybody's got to work together to make this happen. And
where'd you find this designer?
It's Andy. Andy Tran, his crew was the ones they were the ones doing all the layouts for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They should know. They should know that we're on a
They-
budget.
Well, it was my first time working with Andy, right? So I think once I did one, he understood what my priorities were,
Yeah.
and he automatically adjusted the rest,
Yeah.
right? And he was so cool about it. Like he didn't give me a hard time because I was probably a little annoying, just constantly making adjustments. But he was really good, and he never got frustrated or anything, which I appreciated.
It'd be nice if there was like a internet widget and just like slide down your budget and then just automatically redesigns to fit your budget.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. Like a chat GPT type of thing. Lay this out for me for the lowest price possible.
Well, even just for us, like we're like, what's the minimum money to put down to make this thing break even?
Yeah.
It'd be like that. Slide down. All right, do it.
Yeah.
Reduce the budget by 60%. All right, I can still make money. Do it.
Exactly.
And where are you with these projects now?
So we completed one. We're actually hopefully closing on a refi today. So that's the nice thing. These all have separate titles. So we can refinance them individually or get a blanket mortgage, which again, we're going to go to CMHC and get a mortgage across all of them eventually. But we're refinancing the one today. The second one that we're working on is about 70% complete. Same thing, we'll refinance that. And then the other two, the tenants are leaving hopefully end of this month in April.
Fascinating. You have 4 properties on separate titles, but you bought them together
With separate corps.
So you have 4 corps.
Two
corps.
Yeah. So we offset. Like the first one is under one corp and the third one's under that same corp.
Right. So
and
they're not adjacent. So the titles don't merge.
Yeah.
And hopefully listeners caught that because that's a very expensive mistake otherwise.
Yeah. So just to clarify, if you buy 2 side-by-side properties,
2 adjacent properties.
Under the same, either your personal name or under the same corporation, they will merge on closing. You'd have
disaster. You've lost a lot of value.
Yeah.
Which is just a paper thing.
Exactly. You can, I think, sever them later, but there's
you have to pay for it.
Exactly.
Go get surveys done, go through the city.
No point. Yeah. There's no point of doing that. So, just buy either like put your name and then your spouse's name on the other one or 2 corporations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only time you probably do that is if you're going to tear everything down and build one house.
I've heard of people doing it on purpose for that exact reason, to develop. So if they're buying multiple properties, they want title to merge, so it's easier to develop. Yeah.
Like your Drake buying in Brattle Path, I believe he bought a couple lots.
Yeah.
So he doesn't care if they merge because he's going to tear them all down and build one super house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're not Drake.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, speaking of severing, it's something that I'm actually exploring on another property we have.
Before we go there,
I
want to finish off these townhouses.
Sure.
You mentioned that you can bring this to CMHC as an Aplex.
Yeah.
Even though they're separate titles, you have 2 owners.
Yep.
They'll still treat it as one entity?
From my understanding, they will. I did consult with a mortgage broker specifically for this situation.
Yeah.
And because they're side by side, as long as I'm the owner of the corporations, then there shouldn't be any issues.
Any percentage ownership you have to have, or just that you are an owner?
I'm not sure if there's. I'm not sure if I have to have a specific percentage, but yeah. I mean, in this case, it's 50%, so I hope that's enough.
Super cool.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking because I have another American lender thing example, but anyways. And then explain to me the benefit of going through CMHC for this. Now will be an Aplex.
Yeah. So through CMHC, you can get 40 to 50 year AMs instead of your traditional, like a conventional lender will give you 25 on the commercial side.
Right. Oh, sorry, this is spelled it out. 40 to 50 year amortization, meaning your payments are spread over 40 to 50 years, which is, I don't believe anyone else can offer you that kind of amortization.
Some B lenders, like we got a B lender on actually the one of the townhomes. They're doing a 35 year AM for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you shout them out or?
Yeah, it's Haven Tree.
I haven't even heard of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a B lender, so probably not as many people know about them. I'm not sure, though, if you can go directly to Haven Tree. I think you would have to do it through a broker. Yeah.
Super cool. Do you want to shout out your broker?
Yeah, I work with Streetwise.
Oh, Dahlia's team.
Dahlia's team, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dahlia, another friend of the show.
Yep.
I just saw her this weekend. That's super cool. That's why it's like the whole old saying. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly. Like all these.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
But I know Dahlia.
Yep. So that's been amazing because we got pretty decent terms on this through a B lender. I think our rate's like 7.15, which isn't, I know it sounds high, but compare, because we can't get an A lender right now, just number of mortgages we have. So
a variable is like 6.9 right now, 6.95 on CIBC's website.
exactly.
Right?
So you get 7.15, but you get the extra 5 years. Yeah. So.
And I'm guessing, how were they for qualifying? Like, did you have to give them much?
Yeah, of course.
You have to give them everything?
Everything.
Oh,
yeah. You got to give them.
It was like getting an A lender.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
Okay. So they still required a lot of diligence.
Yeah.
Because my experience with like Home Trust, for example, is they don't ask for nearly as much as a skip bank.
No, in this case, they ask for a lot, but I was happy to do it. Yeah.
Sorry, the 7.15% interest rate, was that fixed or variable?
It's a 1 year fixed.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Damn. And then, but you can renew?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And if the rates come down next year, like it might be better, right? So who knows?
That's a really good rate.
Yeah.
For 1 year. Is it open? Like, no, it's not.
Open. No, I don't think it's open.
Right.
But it's 1 year, so I don't
it's
care.
1 year fixed.
Yeah.
It's only a year.
Yeah.
This is great. Damn, that's cheap. That's cheaper than most.
Yeah, we have variables that are more expensive than that.
I think my HELOC is more than this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because prime is 7.2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully the listener picked that up. Haven Tree, shout out Streetwise.
Yeah.
7.1% on a 1 year fixed, 35-year AM.
Obviously, everybody's situation is different. I don't know if everyone would get that same rate. But
I know, but this is not a flip project.
Yeah. Oh.
Like it's usually you guys usually pay the most.
No, it's not a flip. Like we're keeping it, we're holding it.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
It's a repositioning.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think the finance is usually similar for a BRRRR or a flip.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure.
Super cool. Okay, so sorry, I cut you off. 40-year, 50-year amortization.
Yeah.
Via CMHC. This is the MLI Select program?
MLI Select. Oh, no, sorry. The 50 year is the MLI Select. The 40 year you can get with like a standard CMHC loan.
Oh, so that's still favorable.
Yeah. So that's what we're getting on the 5-plex that we're refinancing now, which we haven't talked about yet, but we are.
How much time do we have? I know my nerdy listeners will appreciate
we don't have to get into it. It's fine, but yeah.
I'm sure my nerdy listeners will like to get into it and appreciate you going into this level of detail about all this sort of stuff. And, I love it when guests know this level of detail in their deals.
Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised some people don't have detail in their own deals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's usually a sign of someone who's analytical and a good operator.
Yeah, there's a lot to remember. There's a lot going on all at once, but I try to remember the numbers as much as possible.
So standard mortgage, 40-year amortization with CMHC.
Yeah.
What kind of terms are you expecting?
So on that one, the way it works, for anyone listening that doesn't really understand, the rate is based on the 5-year CMB, Canadian Mortgage Bond.
Bond
right?
yield,
Yeah. So I think right now, last I checked, it was at about 3.7, right? And then the lender will add basis points as their spread. Mm-hmm. So in this case, they're adding 200 basis points.
Okay.
So we're going to be at roughly 5.7% on the loan, the interest, which again, like that's way better than what you'd be getting, because I had a 1 year on that property with Desjardins, and my rate was like 7.89 25-year AM. Right, so my payments are going to come down substantially. My interest rate's going to be much lower. Yeah. It's way better to go to CMHC. That's why they're getting so many applications.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is always a concern because CMHC is the division of government.
Yeah.
Government's not supposed to take everything away from private industry.
Well, the CMHC is an insurer, so they're not the lender. The lender in
there's other insurers out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's. I mean, I'm happy to do it because it makes sense for me, but I understand. Yeah, it would be nice if there were more options like that instead of just the one kind of monopolizing the market.
Yeah, because they offer the best rates.
Yeah.
And they're government.
Yeah, exactly.
They have different cost basis than private industry. Yeah, but again, like what you're doing here with these townhouses, for example, is you're doing what the government wants.
Yeah.
Well, you're benefiting society. You've doubled the housing.
Mm-hmm.
right? With private funds.
Yeah.
Can we? I want to stay on this example with the 4 townhouses, just to give an example of a different joint venture structure. Can you share on that how this joint venture structure works?
So we have 4 partners. Actually, kind of the interesting thing about this is initially we had bought one of them ourselves with no partner, and then we added a partner on later. So they're all equity partners. Yeah, we're 50-50 on all of them.
50-50 ownership.
50-50 ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every situation's a little different. You got to also talk to the people and see what their situation's like at the time, because we just said we're going to do duplex renovations. We need $70K to do these. Not everyone's in the same position, so we've had to kind of adjust based on the person's needs.
And so for the new investor, that's not easy to do. Because for, say, a brand new investor, imagine like you 10 years ago, like trying to negotiate joint venture deals on this. It's not a vanilla project.
No.
It's hardly turnkey.
Yeah, it's not.
100-year-old houses in Welland.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen these. I can't even recall. Yeah, no, there's some of these. Yeah, there's some on like Bay Street in Hamilton. But yeah, okay, so I do have context of what these things look like.
They're not run down like some of the ones in Hamilton that you see, right? Like the brick is all rotted and the
like
foundations,
thousands and thousands and brick repointing.
Yeah. No, it's not like that. Well, first of all, these have vinyl siding, so you can't really tell by looking at it that it's 100 years old. But I mean, it's not, like you said, not just a simple buy and hold and do nothing to it.
Right. And then, what did your partners have to bring? Capital, credit?
No, in this case, they brought capital, all of them. We had different exit strategies when we initially purchased, and I think one of them was to get a commercial across all of them. So that's why we thought it would make sense for us to have our corporations on title. But yeah, it does make things a little more complicated because now we have to personally qualify for all of these mortgages while we're repositioning the assets.
And that's actually because investing's not a straight line.
Yeah.
It doesn't always go to plan. But this is going to likely work out quite well. Like, sorry, like, we haven't even asked. Like, what is your after repair value?
We just had one appraised, the completed one at 505.
So let's start over. So it's $375 to buy.
Yep.
What was your renovation?
70, including carrying costs.
And that's important because carrying costs are a cost.
Yeah, because it was 50 for the reno plus HST, and then the rest of that was carrying costs.
So that's a pretty good uplift.
Yep.
For appraisal 505, and you're happy with the appraisal?
I'm happy with it for sure. Actually, I could have gotten a larger mortgage on the refi, but I kept it a little bit lower because, again, I am conservative. I don't want to borrow too much and be in a bad spot. So I wanted to make sure it cash flowed after we refied.
Right. So you do your own lead generation to find these deals.
Yeah.
So even if you had all the capital you needed, how many deals do you think you could churn out a year?
I think finding deals is one of my strengths.
Right.
I can find a lot of deals. But then I'd need more capital to do it.
The point I'm trying to get across is, there's Northern Ontario investors. They were just buying anything in a market where there were no buyers.
Yeah.
How else do you acquire 200 houses in a market with a population of 50,000?
Yeah.
Right? It was probably a complete buyer's market, right? But these deals that you're unearthing, I think a lot of people would want them. Yeah,
I think so. And we're making these deals, right? We're creating these opportunities. We're buying things that, because for example, that building that we bought, I think it had been on the market a year before.
Right, the
11 unit, and no one really seemed to want it. It just expired, right? So, and that's not how I came across that opportunity. Mm-hmm. It wasn't an expired listing type of thing, but Yeah, like I even mentioned it because I was working with a real estate agent. He was sending me opportunities, and he's like, "Oh, I heard you got something." I told him about the property. He's like, "Yeah, I went to see that last year. I don't think that was a good deal." And then I told him about the terms that I negotiated. He's like, "Oh, we weren't getting those terms last year."
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Because things have changed. Like the
Yeah.
market changed, terms changed.
yeah,
Yeah.
vacant units, VTBs, like all these things make a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. The deal got better as
Yeah.
the deal got stale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And people need to remember that. You know, people's situations change. Something
Yeah.
obviously changed for the seller to get more motivated.
Yeah,
The market didn't help either.
yeah.
Because I think the market's pretty soft right now for apartment buildings.
I don't know about that because you don't see them come up too often, right? A good deal on an apartment building, you don't see it go on the MLS often. I think they're often traded off market, and there's always demand for those types of properties from what I've seen. Yeah.
Fascinating.
It's just the rate's so high that it makes things more difficult. The DCR, the debt coverage ratio, is one of the main factors of the loan, right? And that's all impacted by the rate.
So you're not even seeing increased deal flow, more opportunity. Well, because we've probably peaked in rates.
Yeah. I'm not really looking for opportunities right now because I have these different projects going on. Like my focus is 100% on stabilizing the portfolio.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a thank you for sharing. I think it's a great share is that, take care of what you got.
Yeah.
Before you move on.
Yeah.
And apologies for picking on the investors up north in Ontario, but they have, I believe, 200 of their 600 units are sitting vacant.
Mm-hmm. I don't know too much about that whole situation.
But how would you feel if a third of your portfolio was sitting vacant?
You'd probably be very stressed out. I can
600
imagine.
units.
Yeah. Yeah.
My point is someone was not watching the operation.
Yeah.
Not nearly as closely as you're watching yours.
Well, mine is a much smaller operation. It's a lot easier to keep track of, a couple units under renovations than having 600 units.
How much of your portfolio is vacant right now?
Not much.
That's my point.
Yeah, not much.
Vacancy makes me sick.
Yeah.
Because it's an expense.
Yeah.
I don't like expenses.
Yeah.
I like cash flow.
Yeah.
I don't like things coming out of my pocket.
For sure. Sometimes you need to.
Yeah.
You need to have vacancies to address certain issues, certain repairs, that sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah.
But this is part of the plan.
Yeah.
Structural vacancy is never part of the plan.
Yeah.
As in no renovations going on. Don't know when you're gonna have permits.
Right.
Don't have the money to renovate.
Yeah. No, that's a different situation altogether.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes me sick.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, cool. And then you have another project on the go. How many open projects do you have right now? That's in repositioning?
Just those townhomes in the building. But the last thing I was gonna say is we have this fourplex in St. Catharines that I think at one point was 2 semi-detached homes. So it's very early, but we are looking at seeing if we can sever, again, maybe titles merged at one point because we were talking about that. If we can sever this fourplex into 2 duplexes, then we'd have a pretty significant gain in value just from doing that one thing alone, right? So just something to consider for anyone listening that has that type of property.
How'd you find the deal?
That one was on off market. I did a little flyer campaign. It was a very targeted campaign. And this was a few years ago, so yeah.
How'd you get the flyer in the hands of the owner? Did they live there?
No, but there was different ways. We had VAs try to look things up. We would drive to different properties sometimes and leave letters in the mailbox for the owner. There's just all sorts of different things that we did at the time.
Yeah, so you're on the ground.
Yeah,
you're on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't passive easy, you're working.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore now because I'm not targeting those types of properties, but I did that a lot before and it worked. I was able to pick up good properties doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we mentioned last time you're on the show, this is not what you're doing for Realtor as part of your Realtor business. You're doing this for your own portfolio.
For us, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the amount of investment you're making into acquisition is just significant.
Yeah. I mean, it just to me doesn't make as much sense to go do all this work and get a $15,000 paycheck for it, right? So I'd rather pick them up and hold them long term. Yeah.
Because that's where the wealth is.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in the transaction.
Yeah. You need the transactions, like as realtors, if that's your main thing, you need the cash flow for most people, but yeah, long term is the way to go.
Yeah. So my point when I made earlier, when new realtors ask me for advice, so to give context, pretty much always they have a job already.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to do realtor as a part-time. So if you already have a job and you have good income already,
Yeah.
I'd focus on being an investor, not a realtor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because the investor long-term will make you more money.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance whatever you're doing for a living is your highest and best use.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're likely good at it. You went to school for it.
Right.
All sorts of things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Versus becoming a realtor, like it's not easy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Maybe they want to do that to be around people more often and to learn from them and that sort of thing. But there's other ways to do that.
Yeah, there's other ways to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Cool. And how did you identify the opportunity to sell? Did the fourplex work as itself? The St. Catharines fourplex work as a standalone deal?
Yeah.
Or just in your diligence you found the several opportunity?
Well, we've owned this for a couple of years, but I just thought of this recently. I thought, let me look into it. So,
So you already owned it.
Yeah.
So yes, listeners, do look over your portfolio and see if there's ways to extract more value.
Yeah. I mean, there's always ways, right? And if we can increase the value of this building by $100,000 just by severing it, and it might cost us, I don't know, $5-10 to do that, then it makes sense. So we ordered a freedom of information form directly from the city, and that will help us determine if there was separate servicing for water, hydro, like all these things. As much information as we can compile, we'll send that over to the lawyer and go from there.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
You stick with your ChatGPT first before you send it to the lawyer.
Yeah.
Can I sever this?
Yeah.
Read this PDF.
Yeah.
I'm joking. And you think you can do it?
I don't know.
Great.
I know that there's separate water servicing for each side.
Oh, good.
Yeah. There's separate hydrometers for each side, but I'm not sure. I don't know if it was ever used as two semi-detached properties. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a lawyer's job.
Interesting. This will be fascinating. For the listeners' benefit, like you've essentially bought wholesale, and then if you're able to sever, you're essentially going to go retail.
Yeah.
Like just like condos are more all condos are more expensive per unit. A condo is more expensive than buying a whole apartment building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Which is why apartment building owners generally want to condominiumize them.
Yeah.
But then cities don't want it because it removes rental housing.
Right.
But so many cities don't like landlords. So maybe like, hey, I'll stop being a landlord if you let me do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here you go.
Yeah.
We don't like tenants either.
Yeah.
Which often feels the way as being a landlord.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, how's your experience with all these different cities? You talked about Welland, you talked about Brantford, talked about St. Catharines. Have they all been friendly?
So far, every city, like Hamilton as well, they've all been really good. Welland, we had to get minor variances for parking. That went well. The inspectors have been great. Yeah. No issues with them. St. Catharines, I haven't done any like conversions or anything there.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure. Hamilton was great. It's all been good.
No neighbors showed up for your minor variances or anything?
Yeah, the tenants.
The tenants tried to fight you on the minor variance.
100%, and they were smart too. They came up with some good reasons.
Wow.
I was scared, but Andy Tran was a professional. He was awesome. Yeah. He just handled it, and I don't know.
This is the townhouses?
Yeah, the townhouses. Because obviously I was getting N13, so I wanted to remove the tenants. They showed up, gave their reasons why the parking we shouldn't be granted a minor variance for parking, and he came up with his reasons, and it worked out.
Yeah, my right to park on the driveway is greater than someone else having housing.
No, it was actually clever. So we have tandem parking, which is allowed in Welland, but one of the
tandem is in line?
Yeah.
So one car in front of the other.
One car in front of the other.
Yeah.
And one of the parking spaces was kind of like adjacent to the house, right? So when you'd open your door, if you open it too far, you might knock the house. So anyway, she was saying that the parking's super tight. If there ever was a fire or something and you had to get out, that the car might block your path and you wouldn't be able to squeeze out of there and whatnot. So it was clever.
And then the tribunal, is it what?
I think it was the council.
Committee of Adjustments?
Yeah, Committee of Adjustments, yeah.
And they didn't buy it?
No, because it wasn't an emergency exit, right? Like you're not going to exit from the back of the house, go around. You're just going to exit from the front. Or I think Andy was saying that if you can just exit from the back, then you're going to be outside anyway. So you're going to be safe. And yeah, and then the committee, one of the committee of adjustments members said, "Why don't you put parking in the backyard instead?" And then Andy's argument was, "Well, you know, as Canadians, we like to enjoy our yards in the summertime, and this is going to be taking away our recreational space." So they bought that, and everything he said made sense.
Yeah. Well, it costs you a lot. It would cost you more.
Yeah,
money
exactly.
To pave
I don't want
all
to do
your
that.
backyard.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And then we're running out of time.
Yeah, no worries.
You have a podcast. I've heard it.
Yeah.
I've been on it.
Yep.
The Well Off podcast.
Yep.
What else can you tell me about your podcast?
Yeah, we just always have new guests, mostly Canadians that are investing. I've had actually people that are investing in the US as well. So I'll have you talk about that soon. Yeah, I've been doing it for a while, but yeah, I would love to have you guys check that out too. And it's all like, as podcast hosts, we appreciate you guys sharing this with friends and family. So if you guys like this one, make sure to share it, let people know so that everyone can get more listeners and yeah, leave us some reviews.
Yeah, we're not the fancy types either.
Yeah.
We just have good investments.
Yeah.
George, thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for being so transparent on your numbers and deals.
Sure. Happy to do that.
Yeah, because again, like I said, a lot of people don't know the details of their own deals.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that you're keeping a close eye on your portfolio to make sure it's optimized and eliminate vacancy.
Yeah, that's a big one, and just making sure that people's money is safe when they're investing with us. Right? Yeah. That's the biggest thing. And when I say us, I mean me and my wife. But yeah.
Very cool. Thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. Go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. The link's also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.